Tell us a little bit about your background. You mentioned that you started off doing theater as well as dance.
When I was in school, I was part of some theater and I was active member. And that time, I think I have been working with theater for 4 or 5 years. And then dance, I have done my diploma in Indian classical dance, especially in Kathak. I think the dancing and the theater that kind of helped me shaped my thought and how do I visualize my think and how I process my work. Because in dancing, you know how it works with that rhythm, music, everything has to be synchronized at some point. So even that one process I used in my photography as well.
And when did you sort of make the shift to being an artist, being a photographer, and working with images and visual materials?
I think my interaction with photography was from my very early age. One of my cousin was a professional photographer, and I used to assist him, like carrying cameras and all these stuffs like this, and all the helping, exhibiting, installing. And I think that was the first time when I first interacted with photography, and eventually I started learning how it works. You know how it happened in childhood, the childhood hero types, and I was so interested. How does it work? You're having exhibition, and then you're having all this exposure and things like that. So I eventually started learning the techniques only. And then later on, when I completed my graduation in finance and banking, which is completely other way around, I was working for a bank. And then one day I come across Pathshala, the South Asian Media Academy, the school where I actually did my diploma in photography. So I went there and I said, "Oh, this is a photography school in the town." Well, at that time when I started, there was not such photography school there. There was one or two institution, but not like a proper school. And then I get into a basic course for 1 2 months, and then eventually I came to know, oh, photography is doing something else. So we can tell story. We can actually talk what we think, we can express our thought, our philosophical position, even political position, even nothing, just a beauty. And then I said, oh, okay. And then eventually I get into it, and then I got admission for diploma. And then after diploma I went to Germany for study further on photography. I went to University of Applied Science and Arts in Hanover. I studied there again. I came back. Of course, I started working on my own thoughts, own political position and philosophical position.
Could you talk a little bit about the project Rape is Political series of photographs? How did that start? And what was your sort of, process as you went through photographing it? Because it's also such a sensitive and such a, how did the whole project come together?
I think that was kind of organic because when I was in third year and I was supposed to work on my own project, I mean, I was always thinking like, what I have in my mind that I want to express, and I was always looking for that. My mother was a social worker. She had been working with a minor community, and she had been working for gender violence and all the other issues like this, like trafficking. I grown up in this atmosphere. I grown up with that consciousness about people. There's a little girl from indigenous community my mom actually bring at our place. She was a rape victim, and me and my sister was in school that time. So for us she was like, because we heard all this from newspaper and television that some rape happened, and the way that media expressed this news, so she was like a character from television, character from newspaper. We were surprised because she was a normal girl, she was watching TV, she was being surprised to see all the atmosphere and things like that. I mean, like all the kid does. My sister and I was so heartbroken. Oh my gosh. So later on, I realized, I mean, when I grown up, of course, then I realized like why I was expecting her to act weirdly. Maybe the way we are actually executing these types of sensitive issues, this is somehow is not sensitive enough. We are looking from a male gaze. So we are making them more victim in a way. We are not making them look heroes. And then I thought, okay, this is something I really want to say. And then I went back to the same place where my mom used to work, and I tried to find all the issues that was going or happening there.
You're involved in this kind of two modes in which you are doing sort of documentary photography and storytelling, but you also have a series of sort of staged photography through which the message is quite constructed. For instance, the series of like television photographs.
But I'm afraid it's not really really stays. It looks like it stays, of course, yes, because it's a kind of very formal typological word, but it is not really stays. It's a small village in a very remote places, and they only have television in the house to connect with other part of the world, because that land is surrounded by water most of the time. No network, nothing, only this black and white television run by solar battery, and they have only that government channel runs there, like Bangladesh television. So all the news they get from that government channel, that propaganda news and all this. So that news is kind of actually controlling the political perspective and political views of that village people, because it's the only connection they have with other part of the world. Thought like this television is playing a very interesting role there. It's not really an object anymore. It's a portrait of a powerful character. So I tried to portray them in this way. At the same time, you can see that how they actually preserve is so precious for them, because this is the only important thing they have in their house. I mean, normally there are one or two television in one village. So all the people from the village, they actually went that place at evening to watch television, only that news and other thing that happening. So whoever having that television, he kind of hold the power of the village. For me, it was like a metaphor of how the world is running right now. Whoever having the power of information, power of media, they can control the perspective of the world. Actually, having a small example, having a small metaphor to express a wider perspective and wider cosmic reality. I think maybe because all the houses are mud house, so it looks like a one background, like a staged.
That leads me to wonder, like, there are, these like hierarchies of media that have become quite tyrannical, right, for many. And I'm wondering how you negotiate your position as an artist. It's a difficult question to pose to anyone. Also, an artist working through media technologies, and how you see the role of photography today, or is it changing in any way? How do you see those relationships within the media that we practice in?
I think I take it easy. I think we have two way to photograph. I mean, we all know that there is one way that we can mirror the photography, and we can actually go like a window photography. We can just document what is happening there, or we can put our thought in there. So I think now is time. I mean, both of this part is important. We need the documentary just to know what exactly happening there. At the same time, we need that also, that through photography we can actually channel some message, we can actually say something that is important. For example, nowadays I don't think photography is playing only the role to document things. They are saying many more. That we can see that some photographs even come up with a big movement. Some photographs actually influence and provoke people to speak about something. So there we cannot really say that photography is playing only a role as a documentary. Of course not. Of course, there are some other projects like research project that is happening nowadays. They are playing much more than documentary, much more than visual art only.